to Brokenness Meets Grace. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. As always, we're never alone. Today we are blessed to have two special guests in the house. So we got two today, so happy with that. I'm going to allow the guests to introduce themselves, friends of ours from Alberton, a wonderful mom and son. Yay!
My name is Tanya, and I come from Alberton, but have just recently moved there. I come from Overcomers, which is a ministry in Paris. I've been there for 2 years. I actually had a 3-year covenant with God, and the Lord actually cut it short and brought me back to Joburg.
Awesome.
Hi there, my name is Caleb. I'm 24 years old. I come from Alberton. Also 2 years in ministry at Overcomers, and also been brought back to Joburg to serve the side.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming along, guys. We really appreciate it. It's so nice to have more people take part in these conversations. And we're really excited for today's topic because it's a topic that we feel very strongly about, because it's one that so many people can relate to, and that is broken homes. So broken homes from the perspective of children who grew up from a broken home and how it's impacted their lives. So that's today's topic. It leads us into the identity, which is what develops firstly when our homes break. Automatically, I think most people attach themselves to rejection, right? Because it's not often, unfortunately, especially in this country, where you will have a separation that results in still being able to just go ahead and co-parent perfectly. That still results in both parents still being 100% involved in raising their children. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. So in most instances, when separation does happen, or even in instances where I think we've been talking a lot about marriage breaking, but you have people who are born into no marriage at all, where it's just a mother or just a father, So when your identity is formed on the basis of something that's already broken, we develop certain traits or rather we develop a specific identity. We become specific people because of that. And I just want to talk about that now. What sort of characteristics do we develop or identify with as we come from broken homes, and what do we carry into our lives? Tanya, for you, what would you say that was? So how did you identify yourself? How did you see yourself after that experience?
Well, I think I kind of labeled myself already. Earlier you were speaking about that independence. And that was who I was eventually. I don't need no man. I don't need no one, And even at that point, when I just come through all of that, I'm not talking about right now, I didn't need Jesus. I didn't need anybody. It was so strong. I thought I was. I thought I was so strong and so independent that, number one, I didn't need a man to work for me. I didn't need a man to look after me. I didn't need my parents. I didn't need my family. The only people I really needed in my life was my 2 children. And I worked hard so that nobody ever would have to look after me. Even right now, I'm still that independent person. I'm still that strong person who doesn't need a man. And I think that's what life did to me. Life just made me strong. Behind closed doors, I might be a softer person, might be sensitive, but I think with every single experience I've ever had, who cannot be strong? How can you not turn out strong? You can. I've often sat and thought about. I was saying to Caleb last night, it's time for me to write my book. And it's called Her Story, the Modern Day Job. And if I look at everything I've ever had to go through to who I am today, is what you were saying, Karoba. You go back and you look how far I've got. Look what I overcame. The dynamic of the woman sitting around this table right now is the fact that we have Jesus. That love, that passion, that love that we have. I almost feel sorry for the women who have to go through these kind of things and they don't have that Jesus. They don't have the love of Jesus. They don't have that escape when Jesus at this point in time is that lifeboat or that, what do you call that thing that they throw into the water?
Yeah, let's ask the resident wordsmith over here. What is it called? The beautiful
Let's just call it a lifeboat.
A lifeboat. That's what your mom said.
You blow it up with the pump. She changed it halfway.
Okay, so
that's who Jesus is in my life now,
Yeah.
and I'm in love, you know. Even during my marriage, I would just say to my husband, I'm so in love with Jesus, you know, and in my heart I just knew that I couldn't even love my husband that much as what I love Jesus. I gave my life to God when I was 14, many years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was. But I never served Him up until when I got radically saved in 2019, where I just full out gave my life to God and said, whatever happens from here is just me and Jesus. Don't know why we have to go through these lessons. I don't know what we're supposed to learn from it, you know. 6 months from here, you turn back and you look and you'll be like, I get it.
yeah.
I finally get it.
Yeah.
But right now, you know, you're in that raw hurt, you're in that brokenness, because what has it done? It's just created a new brokenness right now. You know, it's just created a new line of questions. But Lord, if I did it like this, would it have changed? Lord, if I prayed longer, Lord, if I was on my knees, like the Proverbs 31 woman should be, would all of this have happened? And I doubt it. I doubt it, you know, because we're going to go back to 2 broken people came into a marriage and expected this wonderful union to happen, and it didn't, you know. We need to get to a point where we understand before we go into a relationship, you know, there's a lot of healing that has to happen, you know. I could hook up with anybody now. And say no would. Just want to put it out there. I could hook up with anybody right now. Just because everybody needs a companion and you don't want to be lonely. You know, that kind of thing. But what is it doing? It's only making me carry my brokenness, not the brokenness from my life, but the very brokenness I sit with right now into another relationship. And that is only going to cause brokenness in somebody else's life. And for that very reason, I'd rather take that time and bring Jesus in and turn their brokenness into mending. And then maybe one day, right now, no thank you, but maybe one day God's going to say, okay, you're ready to feel what it feels like to be loved, not only by me, but this ideal person and you know, at the end of the day, who did it make me? An extremely strong person. Extremely strong to the world. Always portrayed that. I've always wanted the world to see me as strong, even my kids. I don't want to be seen as a weak person. When I'm alone, my weaknesses will be on my knees. That is where I'll cry out. That is where I'll scream, Lord, help, because I don't know, I don't understand. But when I grow up there, you know, even though I didn't grow up being confident, you know, you would know, you label yourself damaged, you label yourself, what is wrong with me? You label yourself sensitive, super sensitive. I could be walking past you and my grandmother's just died and you wouldn't know it, but I'd look at you in such a way that you would think, what did I do wrong? Your entire day is ruined because of your misconception of my feelings. So we just add these labels to ourselves all the time. We allow men to label us the whole time. You're sick, you're stupid, you're not good enough. But affirmations for me is extremely important right now. Affirmations, to be stuck on my cupboard door, that every time I open up my door to dress, I could say to myself, I'm worthy, I'm more than enough, I am who He says I am.
Yeah.
I'm kind, I'm loving. You know, in my cupboard, I have my clothes, but I have my spiritual clothes too. And I will choose, like this morning, Lord, today I'm putting on my cloak of compassion and my mantle of love. That once that goes on, that's all I'm going to be for that day. I'm going to be that ambassador, but I'm going to walk with those mantles. Because I'm so tired of what the world has labeled me. I'm so tired of what I have labeled myself. And I mean, with all the emotional and physical and everything that's gone through in my life, and this is why I say I have to write the book now. And like the Holy Spirit is like, you know, this is the book's name. It's going to be called Her Story, The Modern Day Job. Because I literally feel I was watching Job, the movie, the story of Job the other day, and I relate so much. Because yes, I've lost so much, and I've heard so much. I have autoimmune disease. I have psoriasis, which is another blood disease. I've had 3 back operations, neck operation. I've had 14 operations. I've just lived my entire life sick. You know, the world labeled me sick. You know, the world labeled me incapable. But I'm at that point now where I don't believe it anymore. Because I've changed my thinking. I am who He says I am. You know? And now it's time to say, through everything I've ever endured, who is at the end of that? Who was in the beginning? Who was in the middle? But who did I find only at the end? It was my Jesus.
Wow. Sure, I don't even know what to say. Like, there's so much going on in my head right now in terms of relatability, in terms of some of the discussions that we have on a daily basis about just what finding the love of Christ has done for us. Like, just free us from so many of these yokes, you know. And you mentioned how you sort of ask yourself, you know, could I have avoided everything sooner? You know, could I have, if I had known this truth, the truth that we've come to know now, would we have made certain decisions differently or chosen different paths? And I ask myself that question every day, you know. But I also find joy and I find peace in knowing that we are exactly where He wants us to be at the exact time that He wants us to be, you know. And we are the best version of ourselves that we have ever been because of Him in this moment right here, you know. And I listen to you, and I listen to how you feel, or certain parts of you still feel like, you know, you went and you wanted your life to turn out one way and turn out opposite, and you feel terrible that this is not how you wanted your children to see you. But I listen to your son, and I listen to the kind of values that he has, and I listen to the kind of husband that he is. And I mean, we've only been sitting in this room for a couple of minutes, but for me, that speaks volume to the mother that you were, even in your brokenness. You know, it speaks volumes to the fact that you gave him the most important gift, and that was the gift of leading him to the path of God, where God could take him and mold him into the man that he is. And that's a legacy that is far more important than riches and wealth, than even the idea of what a whole family is. There are people who grow up and, you know, raised by both parents, but still don't have the understanding of God, or don't have the relationship with God that perhaps he does. You know, so the greatest legacy that you could have ever given him was the knowledge of God, in whatever way, you know. And that's grace. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about talking about, where does brokenness meet grace? You are broken, there's things in your life that have made you feel as though you could never be repaired or restored, but the grace is in your seed. That's your lineage, you know, and that's what I was talking about, generationally, that sometimes we want to see things now. You know, we want to see the hand of God, the promises of God in our lives play themselves out now, and we'll be lucky enough to see them sometimes. I've come to understand that sometimes He'll give them to us, you know. But in some instances, we are only blessed that our generations will capitalize from the pain that we went through, because we have come to a place where we say, Lord, help, you know. So for me, it's just so moving. It's really wow, yeah. And your identity around, sort of what identity did you form around coming from a broken home? You know, what ideas were implanted in your mind and how did you carry them?
I think definitely the independent woman mantra. You know, our mother is a very strong, very independent, very, you know, she's, how you described your father, her aura, her personality. You see her when she walks into a room. She's very strong, right? Assertive. And we grew up with that, you know, in how she raised us. She, you know, voiced her opinions on a lot of things, and we kind of adopted, you know, to speak our mind. And we felt we were being victimized, we would tell you what we thought of the matter, we didn't care, you know. And yeah, so for me, that played up. Obviously, it was easier to latch onto that because I was already so severely self-conscious. But for me, it was just, I'm my own boss, you know, I'm my own person. I don't need anybody to anchor me, to hold me. If anything, it's going to be a deterrent, you know, to the life that I want for myself. So I don't want to entertain thoughts of, you know, being in a relationship with anybody because I'm smart enough and I'm independent enough, you know, I make my own money. So yeah, that definitely played a role in just from an independent perspective, and that played out in distancing myself because men are not attracted to women who are assertive, you know, women who seem like they have it together and who don't need them, you know. So in a sense, I wanted relationships, but my persona kind of repelled it because that's just how I was, and if you didn't like me, sorry for you, you know, keep it moving. So that attached a level of loneliness as well, because it doesn't matter how much you are strong and how independent you are, by virtue of being a woman or a man, you need each other, you need that companionship, it's built in, you know, it's how God created us to live, to function. We need that kind of, you know, longing and loving union, so you'll always yearn for it. It doesn't matter how hard you portray that you're okay, you need it, you know. And it's in moments of stillness and silence and solitude that, you know, those thoughts come and plague at you, but you are living out the opposite because of the way that you are raised. And of course, daddy issues. I don't know what it is. I actually wanted to ask, you know, I genuinely have no idea what it's like to have a father, you know, an earthly father. I have no reference, you know. Even television, I think, is still not the true, you know, relationship between a daughter and a father, you know. So I have zero understanding of what it means to have a father in a household, and that played out in different ways. Me seeing the male species as the enemy, you know, because in my head, my dad is non-existent. My dad is a disappointment, and all men are the same. And I literally had a very negative, you know, perception to guys in general. It didn't matter who they were. I just saw them as they were out to get me because my father was non-existent. So for me, those are the identities I latched on. Of course, self-esteem, low self-esteem, rejection, but just a very independent woman in my thinking, you know, especially in my thinking. Very dismissive. You know, I didn't like to entertain things that I felt like was a waste of time. I dismissed it very easily, and extremely guarded. It took almost everything to kind of break down my walls. You know, so yeah, I think that was the identity that I latched onto with that.
Caleb, for you?
Wow, there's, you know, a lot of labels in my life. I think it was basically from when I was growing up as a child. Obviously having this ADHD and ADD and, you know, all these special schools, I always felt different. You know, I always felt rejection, and I felt that I had to work even harder to be accepted into my family, especially when it came to my father's side. Like I said, he was look, my mom was a softie.
Oh my gosh, you guys, they record. Am I recording? Yes. Okay, sorry, I thought Stop this idea.
So obviously, my mom's the softie of my two parents. She was a compassionate, loving one. My dad, like I said, we do have a great relationship. I do love him, but he was very tough over the years. So basically, I formed this label of reassurance. So I would be a person throughout all the years, because of school, because of my dad's side, especially my brother. My brother used to make fun of me a lot. My brother was much older than me because he's he's a half brother. Okay, so it's same father, different mother. And that's also another massive factor that was just brought to mind now, because my dad had 3 other kids by another woman before me and my younger sister. It was a massive, not really, I wouldn't say adjustment, but it was a massive, how would you say it, split, separation in the family. We were the downcasts. That's how I felt we were looked at. My 2 older sisters, half sisters, and my older brother. We were really pushed away because we were like, how could you, it was that thing of how could you come into our family all of a sudden. I mean, so it was very difficult growing up in a place where you didn't feel welcome by your own family, like your sisters and brothers, and obviously that made a lot of reassurance problems. So even growing up and being late teen, early adult in ministry, I would find myself looking for so much reassurance by people, especially when I started working by bosses. So anybody that had authority or in charge, I had to have reassurance from them all the time, and when I did not get the reassurance, I felt rejected. So basically, recently, a fellow pastor that I was serving, he didn't mean to reject me, or how can I say, it wasn't him actually rejecting me, but it was the reassurance factor. So he had a lot of stuff he was dealing with as well, and he taught me a lot, and he gave me a lot of wisdom as well. I appreciate him and I love him a lot. But certain days I would go up to him and I would be excited, because of the love of Jesus. I would be excited to go up to him and share something with him, or show him that I'm doing well. And when I didn't get that, well done, you're doing great, or well done, you've done good this past week, or whatever, I felt horribly rejected, and it would cause such an aching in my heart, and I would sit there and I'd be like, I can't get anything right. And father, bosses, any male figure or male role, it would be a thing of, if there wasn't reassurance, it would turn into a form of rejection. And that's where we gotta watch how we treat our children, because as I had my 2 kids now recently, I realized it's not wrong to teach them about love. It's not wrong to love your kids and to actually take the softer side of things. Look, men need to be men, I still believe that. I'm sorry if that sounds sexist or whatever. I believe a man should be a man. He should know his place in the household. He should know how to provide for his family. A man should never be a burden on the family, especially his wife and his kids. A man needs to step up and be a man. That's what God created men to be, leaders. But the thing is, as a leader, it is also your duty and your job to teach love, to teach kindness. I mean, that's what Christ our Lord and Savior came. I don't know if you guys have watched, disclaimer here. If you guys watch The Chosen.
We love The Chosen. We're like The Chosen fanatics.
So before The Chosen, I had a completely... Remember, I'm still new to Christianity and stuff like that. I haven't been a Christian all my life. I haven't served God all my life. When I watched The Chosen for this first time, do you know how in love with Jesus I felt?
Same.
I see Jesus in a total different way.
Different. Like he's real.
like he's real.
Yeah.
Like he's not this God with a
Yeah.
white beard
Yeah.
and with like a
It's real.
scepter and or a shambok in
Yeah.
his hand and saying,
Yeah.
"I'll whip you, you
Yeah.
sin," and you know.
It's legalistic.
I see Jesus sitting there across from me, and I sin, and Jesus is like, "You know, I still love you. It's not right, but
Yeah.
but let's fix it together. Let's do it." You know. I don't see him as you going to hell now. You know, you're not my child.
Yeah.
And you know, I was watching this thing the other day. It was so amazing. One of these pastors, I don't really know his name, but it was one of on this Facebook reels, and you know, it opened my eyes as well. And I think God wanted me to see that. He was talking about this thing of, you know, a guy asked him one day, is it alright to smoke weed if you're a Christian? And he's like, yeah, well, you know, it's, you know, you can't judge. And the guy was like shocked, and he was like, but why? He's like, when you go and bath, do you want to wash yourself first before you get into the shower? Or do you get into the shower and the shower washes you? He says that's what it is to be in a relationship with Jesus. You don't try and make your life perfect before. That's many Christians' problems these days. They see a perfect God, they see a perfect Bible, they see a perfect Savior, and they're like, I cannot go to
like
swearing or smoking, or you know, I have a drug addiction, or you know, I've been involved in prostitution, or whatever the case might be, whatever horrible thing you might have done. You sit there and you think, I'm not worthy. And that's what keeps so many people away from God. Because Jesus is not, you cannot go to Jesus being perfect. Because that's his whole mission in void. Jesus came that the world might be saved through him.
To heal the sick.
To heal the sick, to raise the dead. So if you go to Christ, he will wash you. He is the shower, he is the soap. You know?
You won't stay the same.
You will obviously, like the pastor's point over there, the reason why he said yes, it's alright to smoke weed. It's not giving permission. He was basically trying to make a point that when you are really in a relationship with Jesus Christ, when you're really serving him as your Lord and Savior, you'll get to a point where you will know yourself it's wrong. It's not for us to point fingers and say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And I think that's also what's causing a massive rejection in the body of Christ these days. Is the fact that fingers are being pointed and people are not being brought in and introduced to the Messiah. The Messiah will clean you, the Messiah will wash you, and that's as well with the broken homes. We can't fix ourselves. Forget it. You're not going to fix yourself. You will always, it's been embedded to you. It's like teaching, it's like taking a lion cub as a baby and teaching him to be a household dog. When he's reached his mature years, and you send him back into the world, he's not going to know how to hunt, he's not going to know how to live on his own or feed himself. Same thing with us. We've been brought up in a certain way, but we need to acknowledge that every way that we are brought up in this world is wrong. Only God's way is right, and that's the truth. God is the creator, he's the author and the finisher, and we have to come to him and let Christ wash us. And that's when we can start fixing, or not us fixing, as I just said now, we can't fix ourselves. God needs to fix us. And the Holy Spirit does it through love and patience. I mean, it can take about 10, 15, 20 years for a person to have one little problem fixed. I mean, that's how damaged a certain area can be of your life. So if you want to be fixed and you want to be healed, sometimes don't put a timer on God. Because that's when people start giving up as well. You ask God, God heal me. And it takes, let me give you can I give a small testimony? Sorry, and I'm talking about you. I want to roll with it. Let me give you a testimony quickly of how I gave my life to God. About 4 or 5 years ago, when was it that, because we both gave our lives together, you know, we became radically saved. When was it? About 4 years ago. How many years? Yeah, because we all gave our lives to Jesus on the same time. Eh?
Wow.
So same church, everything. 5 years, almost going on to 5 years now. So we're still babies if you think about it. I mean, according to Paul the Apostle, we should still be on milk. You know? We haven't even reached our mature years with meat yet. And look, I'm going to tell you, in the past 5 years, I mean, it feels like 50 to me. I've experienced so much, and I learned so much about God. I mean, the things I've experienced in my own life, rejection from ministries, the mix. I mean, there as well, ministries at home as well.
Yeah.
And so many broken ministries out there, breaking people even more, shattering lives and families.
Yeah.
But anyways, let me give you my testimony quickly before your battery and thing goes flat.
We've got enough.
I'm talking a lot now.
No, it's good.
So, I don't know, I was about 5 years ago, and I think I was at my dad's house. We were having a little bit of a party. Before I gave my life to God, I was quite rough. My vocabulary was just swearing and, drinking and partying and doing whatever. And one night I was at my dad. We had a jawl, like they would say, a party. And I took some stuff, and I don't know, it wasn't good stuff. Let me just say that. About half an hour after I took the stuff, it did something really weird to me, and I had like an encounter. So it was marijuana, if you guys are wondering what stuff it is.
Even I was wondering.
But
Is this the first time you're hearing this?
yeah, well, I don't like to. Okay, let me give you guys a little bit of a thing here. I don't like to share the marijuana part because there will be a lot of people out there that will laugh at me and say it was just a bad high or it was just a trip. You experienced something bad. It's normal.
Yeah.
But what I experienced that night was something not normal. I mean, I was basically almost an atheist. Okay, because I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in church. I didn't want. I was partying. I was a youngster. Nobody came to me and was like, come, let me introduce you to the Messiah. Let's go to church. Let's do this. I went to God on my own, like for a reason. So I took a lot of marijuana that night. Like, I mean, a ton of it. I mean, I think I had like 8 smokes after.
That was a past experience, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Look, it's a testimony. So, I mean, my days of hiding are long gone. I think I'm 24 years old now.
Take your phone away.
Yes. Okay, you can punish me. So basically, I took a lot of this stuff, and I don't know, I walked into the kitchen, I felt normal, I was fine, and I literally, as soon as I walked out of the kitchen, now my mom would know how my dad's house looks, it's a kitchen, and you walk out and there's like a dining area with a round table, and everybody was sitting there having a party, and I went from the kitchen, felt normal, and as soon as I entered the dining room, I had this feeling that came over me. I literally felt like I was busy dying. It felt like my brain was busy shutting down all my organs. I couldn't breathe, and it caused the most severe anxiety attack. But I'm talking to a level, please understand me, I know people have anxiety attacks every day. This was something I never ever imagined existed. I was such a strong person, but it brought me down to my knees right there. As soon as I walked in, I remember thinking, oh no, I'm busy dying. I'm busy dying. I can feel my brain shutting down. I can feel my heart. Like, everything just doesn't feel more. And the fear that overcame me right there. I looked at my dad sitting at the table. I looked at everybody laughing and having a good time. And I realized right there and then, if I die right now, none of these people around that table can help me. It's the end for me, I need to now deal with death by my own. No one can help me. Even if I scream to these people right now, there's a hopelessness I felt, there's an emptiness I felt inside of me. And I remember not knowing about God, and through this severe anxiety, this panic attack, everything, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think, everything just felt, and now bear in mind, I was never a person that was on medication or had operations, I was never sick, I was a healthy young oak, having a good time in life. I ran out into my dad's garden, and I was pacing up and down. And I said, God, please save me. If you will just save me, I will never do this again. I swear, Lord, I promise you, I will never do this again. And I felt this calmness start coming over me. And the next day, I woke up, I was fine, perfectly, forgot about God now again, forgot about everything, forgot about the party. I'm like, oh, that was a crazy night. About 2 days later, I was at my cousin's house. We were busy fixing one of my cars. And we had dinner there. And as we were having dinner, it was about 5, 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock. I remember eating my food, and I was surrounded by these people, and all of a sudden, the same feeling hit me again. This feeling of this, it felt like death. I was.
And you hadn't been smoking.
I didn't do anything that day. I didn't drink, I didn't do anything. I was perfectly fine that day. And I ran out into the front garden. And I'm freaking, but I'm shaking, the sweat's running off me, I can't breathe, I'm like holding my chest, I'm freaking out, it feels like I'm busy dying. And my wife runs out, we weren't married at the time, but she runs out and she asks me, what's wrong? And I'm trying to explain to her, I'm busy dying, help me. And everybody's like looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm dying, help me. And it was the most severe anxiety attacks that I didn't even know that it could exist. And obviously, after a whole while, I went to the doctor. After that night, I had anxiety every day. I stopped sleeping, I stopped eating. I would literally lay in bed and have fits that I was shaking. I couldn't sleep. I thought, I was so scared if I fell asleep I was going to die. I couldn't breathe. My wife looked at me, I started perishing in front of her. I lost like, I think 15, 20 kgs in like a month. I just stopped eating, stopped speaking, asked my mom, I was at doctors. I went to a doctor and he said to me, I tried to explain to him, listen, I'm busy dying. He says to me, you're not dying. He says, it's just in your head. Breathe into a brown paper bag and here's some pills. I was so furious. So I would sit at home and I would think to myself, this is not real. This is from hell. This is from hell, and I need to know who God is. I need to know who Jesus Christ is. And I went to a local church from here, and I met a fellow pastor over there, and I tried to explain to him what I was going through. I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know who God was. I was new to all of this. I was fearing that I was going to die, and I was like, please help me. This is what I'm going through. And this is what he said to me. And it made me so angry. I'm going to be honest with you. I asked him, please help me, please introduce me to Jesus, please help me. You know what he said to me? He said to me, come back on for a Sunday service, and then we will learn about God. I went home, bearing in mind I was so sick, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything, and I still had to work because I had a child. And anyways, I was angry. I tried to start praying at home. I started praying on my own, but I was so frustrated because it felt like the prayers were bouncing off the roof. I didn't know if it was getting to God. I felt so separated from God because I was so scared.
It may be broken, but it's in the hands of the potter. Bye guys.
Bye.
Catch you next week.